Does grill tape really make a next-gen car faster? Find out today. I'm Matt Faulkner, and this is Overtime. On this episode of Overtime, we're going to talk a little bit about race adjustments. Things that we can do to the car now that are similar to the older generation car, or things that are different. Some things change with race adjustments in the next-gen car, and today we're going to discuss what's different and what's the same. Hot topic for this week is grill tape. Hot topic. The 18 car got a penalty for grill tape late in the race at Richmond. Ended up coming back from it, finishing in the top 10, and everything was somewhat okay. But that was a huge penalty for something that may or may not have even affected the speed of the car. Grill tape used to be, in the old car, something that you could put tape on the grill, it would add front downforce, it would heat the water up, but as long as the water wasn't too hot, you could go faster. It was a great adjustment if your balance allowed for that, and if your water was cool enough to be able to heat up with some extra tape. Grill tape's a little different with the next-gen car though, and mostly the way that the car receives its air into the engine. Now in the older car, there was a hole in front of the windshield, we call it the cowl, and that's where the air would go into the cowl and feed into the engine separate from the grill in the front of the car. Now with the new car, the engine gets its air from the same grill that the radiator gets it from. So if you add tape to the grill, you're actually starving the engine of air it needs to breathe. The rule is you can't add tape to the grill of the next-gen car. The rule's the rule. You can expect a penalty if you do it. But frankly, adding grill tape to help the speed of the car is no longer a thing anyway, given that it chokes the engine. Now we're still allowed to add brake tape to the car, and that was what that piece of tape was meant to cover. It was meant to cover a brake hole, which would have added front downforce to the car and sped it up. But that tape was mistakenly put on the grill, and that's why we ended up with a penalty on the 18 car. Two adjustments that we don't have available to us anymore on the next-gen car are packer shim and track bar. Now packer shim you may have seen with the older car, the tire changers would pull the front tires off and they would reach in and grab a tether that would pull a little shim out of the front shock. This would lower the car and get the splitter closer to the ground, speeding the car up, affecting its ride height. Now we don't have that adjustment anymore. We don't have a quick way to adjust ride height on the next-gen car, so that's no longer a thing. Also, track bar adjustments, which is a lateral link across the rear suspension when we had a solid axle. You could raise or lower that bar, essentially loosening up or tightening up the car. That's no longer a balance adjustment either on the next-gen car. Two adjustments that are similar to the old car that are still available on the next-gen car are wedge and tire pressure adjustments. Wedge is what you see when the pit crew members put the wrench in either the left side or right side of the rear window and turn rounds. Those add or subtract rounds to the rear springs and loosen or tighten the car up depending on which spring they add rounds to. Also, those rounds adjust the ride height of the car, and that can affect the speed of the car as well. Adjustments to tire pressure are still allowed just like in the old car. Adjustments in tire pressure can do a few things. They can affect the overall grip of the tire, they can affect the ride height of the car, they can affect the balance of the car by putting different amounts of pressure in the different tires, and it's super common for NASCAR cars to not have the same amount of pressure in each tire like a road car. And also depending on what air you put in the tires, it can make the lateral grip better or the longitudinal grip better, and so there's a bit of a balance and science to tire pressure. It's not super cut and dry. So there's a brief summary of some things you can still do to the car during the race to make the car faster and hopefully a race-winning car. That's it for this episode of Overtime. If you have any comments or any ideas for a future episode, please post in the comments below, and if you ever feel like you're going to miss an episode of Overtime, just tape it.